So, I mean, I've listened to pretty much every single podcast which your brother's done, Andrew. Yeah. So I feel like I know what your upbringing was like because he's obviously described it so many times. Is there anything which you would want to touch upon that's different from his story? Because I imagine everything that he went through, you were going through as well, because you two have been so tight.
Yeah, the only difference is, I guess it may have been slightly harder for him because he was the older brother. Mm-hmm. He didn't have an older brother to look up to. I did. But in the same way, you know, with advice, with things in life, I've always had his back, especially since we've been adults. But as young kids, you know, I always had that older brother to look up to, which is why I actually spend a lot of my time. I was going to say waste a lot of my time, but I actually spend a lot of my time answering questions and talking to the young men who ask me for advice, because, you know, I was very lucky to have Andrew there. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people in this world are just growing up with no men to look up to. And I realized that, you know, myself and my brother and guys like you have become that figure that a lot of people on the internet look up to in an age where, you know, the masculine men are few and far between. So I spend a lot of my time trying to speak to younger men and coach younger men. But yeah, my upbringing was exactly the same as Andrew's, but slightly more difficult for him, I think.
Yeah. I think it's amazing the bond that you guys have, and you're almost setting like this perfect example of how siblings should be. You know, they should be there for each other. They should have each other's back. And what I find crazy in today's world is there's so many like messed up families. And even a girl I was seeing in the past, she has a brother, but her brother is this drug addict who does nothing, who's just a sponge, taking everything away from the family. And I just can't believe that siblings can be that way and they can hate each other. You know,
I find it weird that there aren't more brothers like me and Andrew. Mm-hmm. And before the internet and before me and Andrew, I guess, started getting big 5 years ago, or started traveling the world, or started meeting people, we didn't realize how unusual it was. Mm-hmm. We really didn't. We thought, okay, we're brothers. We live together. Let's work together. We're brothers. We thought that was so normal that it's shocking that I haven't met another pair of brothers like me and Andrew. Mm-hmm. And I'll openly say, and to all the people who I have met, I'm not trying to offend you, I haven't met anyone with a brother who works together as well or as perfectly as me and Andrew do. And I just find that really hard to believe. And, you know, I try to push this on younger people as well. You know, not just maybe your biological brother, but even your friends, like teaming up with other men and having strong male friendships with other dudes is one of the most important things in life. Like you get the idea of just being a complete lone wolf by yourself, I don't think is healthy, and I don't think it's the most effective way to live. So yeah,
I think it's crazy. If I had another version of me with me all the time, I'm not saying we'd be twins, but just someone who's very similar, like God knows where I'd
think of how much more you get done. Yeah, exactly.
I do have a brother. He's 2 years below me, and he's very similar. It was amazing when we were growing up. Like we had each other's back. We spent a lot of time together. But I guess we kind of went down separate routes, because when he was at university, he met this girl, and then he pretty much just got together with
always girls.
Yeah. He got together with this girl, and they've been together ever since. And his life, or a huge part of his life, has been with his girlfriend. They're going to get married next year. So I feel like, as much as I like her and they're happy together and that's great, but I feel like because of that, I lost a part of him, because he was doing his thing with her.
And that is always the way. That is always the way. I don't know what it was about us that made us prioritize our friendship and prioritize being brothers above prioritizing relationships with women. Every woman who's ever been in my life, and the women that are in my life now, know that there is no choice between me and them. You know, if a girl was on my house at my house once on like a 4th date or 5th date, and she said, "I don't like your brother." I said, "That's a very strange thing to say. Why would you say that?" "I don't know. He seems rude. I just don't like him. I've watched him on the internet. I don't like your brother." I said, "Well, that's unfortunate, because this house is half my brother's house, and he didn't pay millions of dollars for this house for people who don't like him to sit in it. So you've got to go." "Oh, but it's your house too. So get the fuck out." Like I will prioritize my friendship and my relationship with my brother above any woman. And I feel like that may be our superpower. Yeah.
As you mentioned before, there's a lot of people in today's world who lack a strong father figure and a role model, both men and women. And we can see the effects of this because there's so many lost boys or men in this world who just have no one to ask advice or no one to look up to. Same thing with women. Maybe they don't have a father figure in their life, and then they end up making some pretty, not the best decisions in their life because of this. What advice could you give to those people who don't have that strong father figure?
I'm not really one to feel sorry for people that much because of the way that the internet has changed the world. I believe that people have positive role models and examples thrown in their face all the time. I feel like to sit back and say, oh, well, I'm just a video game porn addicted playing guy with no muscles and no physique and no physicality. Oh, well, it's because I haven't got a positive role model. I feel like today isn't an excuse. I feel like that every single second that you're scrolling on your phone or looking at Instagram, etc., there are dudes out there, even so much as selling little coaching calls or courses or, who you'd want to be like. Mm-hmm. But it's easy. It's easier to sit around and play video games and masturbate than it is to get the money to buy real supercars and seduce beautiful women in the real world. It is much easier. And because it's easier, I feel like a lot of people don't want a way out. So I don't need to give them advice. I feel like the advice is out there. If you're watching this and that describes you, good. At least you're listening to people with a healthy mindset who maybe can inspire you a little bit to try to be like that. But the type of person who really needs this advice and isn't going to get it is never going to watch this podcast. They're not going to look at the photo of you there with your shoulders, etc., standing next to me with all my whatever car I'm next to and think, I'm going to listen to these two. So those people aren't watching. So we don't need to worry about them, you know? Just let them, flip our burgers and cook our meals.
Anyone can selectively choose how they're spending their time or even who they're following.
Yes.
So if you want to sort your life out and you want to be more conscious about who you're following, just unfollow or even mute all the people that's posting crap.
Yeah.
Start following people who are spreading a good message. And one thing which I've done, which has helped me a lot, because I think I made the choice to live alone when I was 25-ish. And it was very weird being alone because it was the first time I'd lived alone ever. So I was just surrounded by this eerie silence, which I wasn't used to. So what I did was I was just constantly listening to podcasts or audiobooks. So I was just constantly getting these positive messages from the right people all day, every day. And the moment I was doing that, it just completely sort of transformed my mindset.
Well, yeah, it's the old saying of, you become the average of the 5 people you hang around with the most. That's older than the internet. That saying it predates the internet. Mm-hmm. But essentially it means the 5 people who influence you the most. And if you do live alone or if you don't have many friends or you don't have a big group of people, what you're watching and what you're listening to influences you massively. So yeah, cut the crap out. Exactly the same with a healthy diet. Mm-hmm. It influences your health. A healthy mind is exactly the same thing. Scrolling up and down Netflix, watching trash all day is not going to get you anywhere in life, literally, ever. Whereas, you might hear a piece of advice in a podcast, in this podcast, that, makes you wake up and think, I actually need to get my shit in order. So yeah, be careful what influences you.
So what does a typical day in the life look like for Tristan Tate at the moment?
At the moment, it's very, I wouldn't say boring, because my life isn't boring. I would say it's very, right now I'm back in work mode. So I'm up at 7 o'clock every day. I'm training at 8 o'clock every day. I usually have something to do today. Today I've got a podcast with you, of course, it's midday. And then I always try and plan something fun as well. Tomorrow I'm driving dune buggies through the desert. I'm going shopping today in the mall at 7 o'clock, and that's going to be fun. I've got 4 security guards with me, so let's see how big of a crowd gathers. That's going to be a bit of a nightmare, but that's going to be interesting. So I don't know.
I was going to say you and your brother, you're pretty much your business partners.
Yeah,
in a sense. There's the Tate sort of brand, which now is
massive.
It's huge. Everybody knows who Tate brothers are. So what does the future look like? Like, you've obviously had the Hustlers University, there's been the War Room, probably a few other projects as well.
Loads of projects that people don't know about. The future for the Tate brand is simple. I believe that hopefully I stop getting mobbed when I go out in public, but I believe that the influence I'm leaving on young men is a legacy that's going to last longer than I continued to do YouTube. I talk to people when they bring their sons around me. Their sons are 9 years old, 10 years old. They know every single second of every video I've made. They're telling me about things I've spoken about 4 years ago. I'm like, Jesus, do I remember? Did I say that? And I believe that these young men who are so, let's call it obsessed with the message that me and Andrew put across at 9, 10, 11, 12 years old are going to grow up to be happier, stronger, more functional men and adults. And I think that's the future of the Tate brand. I think in 6 or 7 years, myself and my brother may decide to vanish from the public eye a little bit, I'll concentrate on raising my kids, stuff like that. But so far, I'm happy with the way things are.